Table or truth?
All right, we have another smashing episode of Table for Truth, and I've been busy doing a little, well, not too much research. I'll be honest with you. I didn't have to. I mean, there's just so much out there to just like literally just kind of share the stories as they go along. But Tyson, have you heard of Project 2025, also known as Agenda 47, I believe?
Is that the Heritage Foundation plan when Trump gets in the office?
I thought it was more the Heritage Foundation's concerns of their own personal annihilation once Trump gets into office.
So the answer is yes, I have.
Okay, so yeah, what happens if Trump wins the 2024? It's also known as a so-called far-right plan intended to purge and transform the government. And I took the painstaking time this afternoon to research and get the highlights of what exactly this is concerning. Because a lot of people out there, I'm sure we all know someone like that who, listens to a couple sound bites or a tidbit of truth, but not a full truth about something, starts having a panic disorder due to the bad news, which, naturally, we don't want to, just give you bad news. The system isn't helping, though. I mean, I wish we could give you better news. But a lot of people I know are literally thinking they're going to be imprisoned and sent to a gulag if Trump becomes president. We tried to dispel that superstition a few weeks ago, actually, saying that I guess if you did very bad things that were grossly against the Constitution, especially if you happen to work in the government or misusing your power, you might have a right to be a little concerned because Project Agenda 47 might be coming after you. But for the average person, I don't believe anything is insinuating mass incarcerations, prison camps, and the old tactic that good old Governor Trudeau likes to do, where they freeze your bank accounts if you disagree with the government. Right? That's far leftist, fascist, authoritarian kind of tactics. Sorry, I don't think Trump by default would go to that because it would just make him look like a far leftist, fascist, authoritarian kind of guy.
And he already told
you.
You
he clearly doesn't like Trudeau.
So,
yeah, retribution against his political enemies. Again, let's not misconstrue the crowds that are listening tonight. If you're just an average bloke, then you've done really nothing wrong. Worst case scenario, best case scenario, life like it was in 2016 in the sense of economic more prosperity. That remains to be seen, though, because we're kind of in an economic hole. And honestly, we got a whole lot to do before we can get out of that. So talk is cheap. We got to see some real things altering in our society.
Why don't you tell us?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was trying to.
What's this plan?
I was trying to.
What's in this plan?
Kind of work up to it.
Let's not work on it. Let's hit it.
Okay, so it's alleged to target LGBTQ rights concerning talks of gender, sexuality, porn, pedophilia, abortion rights, protection of rights of the unborn, ban critical race theory, gender ideology, and so-called environmental extremism from schools nationwide. It would prefer to bring the power of discussing most of those things to the state level rather than a federal level, which I believe is intact now as we speak. But in general, it seems to have a more federal agenda to frown upon such proclivities. The porn and pedophilia. Now, I'm guessing most people that are trying to create a healthier society would probably agree to that part especially. So I'm not sure why people are completely yipping about that. Admittedly, I can understand why LGBTQ groups are clearly concerned as to the level of what might be deemed as persecution if, the policies became more extreme. Okay, that's a fair point. I mean, to what degree, though, you would lose rights? I don't know. There needs to be more detail on that. You like saying it. We need facts, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So-called environmental extremism from schools. That one needs, again, more facts before anybody can jump on the bandwagon. I think a lot of people are concerned about the environment. The counter argument is a lot of it has been weaponized to create agendas in order for certain political power brokers to stay in power by basically scaring us into submission to fall under the agendas that the World Economic Forum is proposing or whatever, or in this case, I guess the Biden administration. The other problem that people have that are against the Trumpian kind of views is that he vows to work on the largest deportation effort to be made possible to bring balance to the migrant flux crisis. Um, Funny enough, though, I don't know if a lot of people would actually disagree with that have been living in major cities and feel like they're being literally, more than anything, their tax dollars are being used to fund migrants when they're struggling economically. Like those $10,000 debit cards that are being passed in New York. You could argue that people in New York probably are not necessarily frowning on that, but I'm not them. Um, the other things that the Agenda 47 seeks to do is the death sentence for anyone convicted of human trafficking. By the way, you're welcome to bring up your points of any of these things so far. What do you think of any of this?
I'm waiting for you to get to the meat of it.
Well, those aren't meats. Those are big mints right there, man. I would think you'd probably have something to say about that, but all right. The Agenda 47 aims to close the Department of Education and return all education standards to go to states to decide what they deem is appropriate. That doesn't seem insane. That's just putting power back to the states as to what. I think people are already doing that anyway, so I don't see a real concern there. If you live in Florida, you're going to have to accept that if the majority votes certain things to be banned from schools, it is what it is. If you live in New York or Massachusetts,
Including
it is what
books.
it is. Yeah, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree that. Well, okay. In all fairness, books on sexual proclivities to kids, I think, is the concern in New York, and I mean in Florida in particular. Like elementary schools having books that are pushing sexual, mature topics
They're also pushing for
Found
banning books out of
in the JJ
public
section.
libraries throughout the country.
There, I would say, there's probably going to be some pushback because constitutionally, I don't think you can do that, but I don't know to what degree. So again, try to look at it in the middle. Well, let's see. What else is the Trumpian agenda proposed to do? Propose a constitutional amendment that gives term limits in Congress. That doesn't seem like a bad idea. It's actually not a bad idea at all. That way you don't end up with people that are just there forever, including Trump, I might add. But he's not really in Congress, but you get the idea.
No. Explain that. Please.
Well, I believe the concern now is that once you're a career politician...
No. What you said about including Trump.
Well, Trump, in theory, is, as a president, he can have a max of 8 years. And I believe that it would be very hypocritical of him to attempt to consume absolute power and stay there indefinitely, like some of the extremists that I know that are against Trump are afraid of him doing. I don't think constitutionally he could do it even if he wanted to.
He can't.
There you go. So nothing to be worried about there.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. He aims to put prayer back in school and criminalize any race advantage programs, ban federal program funds for gender affirming care. Now that's all a mouthful in one sentence. Prayer back in school. Well, if you lived in the 50s and 60s and up till what year? The 80s maybe? Prayer was allowed in school, wasn't it?
Well, when you say prayer being allowed in school,
Christianity in particular, but like...
So some would think that Project 2025 presents a Christian nationalist vision of the United States in which married heterosexuals or sexuality is the only valid form of sexual expression and identity. All pregnancies would be carried to term, even if that requires coercion or death.
From a metaphysical point of view.
Transgenders and transgender non-conforming people do not exist, the New Republic said.
Do not exist? Okay, that's a little ambiguous. What do they mean by that?
That
They're
there's
gonna,
no
like,
such thing
they're
as,
gonna literally-
transsexual. So it's a choice, and it's not a something that you can be. It's something you can be deprogrammed at. This is
Okay, all right. I mean,
white Christian nationalism. They didn't mention white, but that's generally
yeah, let's not
The
bring
standard.
race in this, but if you want to, I guess, if you want to go there.
what you brought in the
I would say
LGBTQ.
Christian nationalism, period.
So
Not everybody Christian's a white person, by the way. I mean, you're offending a lot of Africans at this point if you're going to say that. Not to mention, Hispanics, and there's a lot of Christians out there. And it's not just white people, but okay.
no, but the white Christian nationalism does not include people of color.
But are you saying that people of color, there's nobody of color would agree to this Trumpian kind of agenda? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
So then color doesn't really matter. Christian nationalism is probably the term itself. Let's not try to divide and categorize and right.
Really?
Wait, there's more,
They
though.
mentioned. Oh, please continue.
Okay, sorry.
My apologies. No,
No, it's all
I'm
good.
sorry.
It's all good. There's a lot in this thing. All right. We were at constitutional amendment that gives term limits in Congress. Also, deploy Department of Justice to investigate political potential criminals. So supposedly this could be Biden, right? Increase the
But
penalty.
hold it. Well, it could be Biden. Biden for what?
Well, if you've been around for the last 2 years and just watched the news in terms of Hunter Biden, the all the chicanery alleged that he might have been involved in terms of money, being moved around, there's some shenanigans there that could be investigated, right?
So you said Biden. I assume you talking about President Biden.
Had President Biden and Hunter Biden.
Hunter Biden is not a political figure.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. I mean, I'm not gonna make up everything. I'm just telling you,
Okay.
just got to be keeping an open mind here. Increase the penalty of jail time for teenagers. Okay, the ones that actually do some serious acts of maybe repeat offending. I would have to look into that in more detail. But to be fair, if you're a teenager and you use the teenage card and you do something like, let's say, steal a car at an airport, okay, and you get caught and you knew that what you did was wrong from the start, okay, let's say you even got caught at the doors by a staff person at the airport who said, give the keys back, you know what you're about to do is wrong, don't escalate this, and you run out of the airport anyway, nonetheless, with the keys, and create a clusterfunk of problems, okay, increase jail time for that. You know better.
You go to juvenile court, in which a judge will adjudicate the individual to whatever's necessary.
Okay, I suppose, but again, I don't think there's a lot of people that would disagree with repeat offender teenagers who just don't seem to understand common sense. You can't do this. You can't shoplift left and right and think there's no penalty for it, right? That's real re-education right there. It's like, you just can't do that. You can't go around hitting people in the head who are playing music in a subway station. Okay, there's just many things that you're just flat out people are sick of it. Okay, and unfortunately they happen to be teenagers. Some of the people.
Okay.
Deploy the National Guard to be deployed in major cities. I guess Kathy Hochul's already doing that, so it sounds like she agrees with that kind of Trumpian idea.
That's you're being sarcastic?
No, I'm telling you facts because we just talked about in the last episode. Kathy Hochul is deploying the National Guard.
Not throughout the city for no reason.
In the subways, and the reason is
to support the Transit Authority police.
Right, and why is that?
Well, the goal is that even though statistically crime is gone down in the city, you want people to feel safer. And so if you have a National Guards person there in the station, people feel safer.
I'd like to do an entire show of how statistically, if crime has gone down in the city, why people, let's say in New York, don't feel safer. But we'll have to do that another time. Because there's so much on this thing here to talk about. So you may or may not agree with these points of the Agenda 47 that's proposed if Trump comes in office. Feel free to leave a comment if you ever dare, if you happen to be listening to this, and it's not too late. What do you think about all these things? I'm not done, though. There's still more to cover here. NATO must pay their fair share if they want to get aid from the United States in case of any kind of foreign aid.
Absurd.
Uh,
Again,
why?
Trump is saying that NATO, there are countries who aren't paying their thing. That's not the way it works.
Why is that, by the way?
Do you understand what countries in NATO are tasked or asked to do?
No, I actually don't. Help us out.
No
Fill us
problem.
out.
Is to spend a certain percentage of their GDP on military so that their military can be up standards, again, with dealing with their GDP, which, we lead the
In other words,
world.
everybody paying their fair share portion.
Well, when you say pay their fair share, it's to keep their army so that if NATO is needed, and again, the only time that NATO was used was when? In history.
So.
It was after 9/11. All NATO countries supported us after we got hit with 9/11, and for 20 years, NATO
Romania
troops were in
provided a tank or
Afghanistan.
two. I remember that, yeah.
Okay. But again, it's to give their military so that if needed, their military will be used in the event a NATO country is attacked.
So it's kind of like the tax policy if it was a
Trump
real...
is spreading it out like you got to pay in the cost. We got to make these people pay. That's not how it works.
Kids, do you agree with this out there in TV land? What do you think? On one hand, it sounds like the ideal system that we should have just paying our taxes where everybody pays a fair share 10% universally. I guess that would be a good analogy to what Tyson's saying. But on the other hand, if somebody can only provide, if some kingdom in Europe can only provide maybe like a horse-drawn wagon and a couple musket rifles, is it fair that the U.S. should intervene and have to pay for all their stuff, Those are deep questions that we'd have to discuss in another episode. Okay, let's look at some other stuff. The Muslim ban. Okay, I'm sure that's a definitely one that I'll have to say that's probably not a that's going to get a lot of flack. Okay, to what degree the Muslim ban means, I think we need to get more facts on that because I don't want to misconstrue the claim of that. I don't think it would be all Muslim people coming into the United States, but we'd have to look at history and everything else. Freedom cities. I don't know enough about the concept of freedom cities. Somebody's going to have to research that. Flying car programs. I don't think that's a good idea, period. But okay. Everyone in America has a right to conceal. So I guess the Second Amendment is being pushed universally in all states. Or I think, again, I'm not sure how you can have state rights for education and not have state rights for right to conceal. But maybe I'm missing something.
You already have that. It is a state right. Some states, for instance, Texas.
Okay, so business as usual then, I guess is a good way to put it.
Well, then why are you putting it in your project?
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to say business as usual. Take billions of endowments and institute American Academy. The concept is a college that's out there for everybody that will give a person like a free college education with functional STEM-based learning.
What does that mean?
We'll have to find out, but it sounds like the American Academy is the dream of any prospective kid going to college if that actually has enough clout and credentials.
No, it sounds like they're going to be taught that
a cheesy like the equivalent of a cheesy wrestling school where you don't learn any moves, that kind of stuff.
Okay, or I would have likened it to Trump University.
Okay, well that's fair. He's going to have to make concessions for. I guess Trump University didn't do too good, but maybe they had a terrible STEM program. Maybe they're teaching critical race theory at the time, and maybe all sorts of other stuff. You might be right. I don't know. Anyway, the leftists, as according to the word on the street. Okay, this doesn't mean everybody on the left, by the way. We're talking extreme leftists.
Word on the street.
Yeah, they seem to be scared about this potential paradigm shift in society if Trump was to become president. Folks, what do you think? Do you think, again, with our checks and balance system, that should we be concerned? It seems like, it makes sense why people would have some rights to be concerned, depending on what you believe. But overall, would the world go to total hell if Trump became president? Okay, I'll ask you first and let everybody else kind of meditate on this. in their own time of meditation. What do you think? Will the world go to hell if Trump becomes president?
Trump, well, number one, I don't think Trump will be president. But if he does become president, somehow we will survive.
Because you don't think Trump will become president because the polls are all just fake about his popularity, or because maybe you get the special like hidden emails. I'm guessing from the Democratic Party, like the hidden stuff, like the juicy stuff. So sometimes I feel like you know some inside information
Well,
the rest of us don't.
Thank you very much.
And when you say that, okay, it's too bad that there's guys
and I'm
like
saying that with confidence. I have more confidence than I did in 2016.
Yeah, like that CIA agent Strzok there, right? And he said, "Don't worry, Trump will not be president or whatever." Like, remember that guy?
He wasn't CIA; he was FBI.
FBI, right? So clearly, you have some inside information.
And I had problems with him. Number one,
because he sounded like a douche when he said it.
No, the whole thing was he was doing it on phones with someone he was having an affair with.
Yeah, exactly.
On
It was a sketch
time.
I get it.
I have problems with that overall.
Okay,
and again, it's a bad look.
I agree.
Particularly if you're investigating someone, you can have your opinion. There's no doubt about it, as long as you conduct.
You kind of pulled a Fannie Willis on that one, huh?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah,
you can say that.
Well, okay. So Tyson, I think the listeners are fascinated here. I guess if you're sworn to some weird like ritual secrecy, obviously we don't want anybody to get hurt here. Is there any kind of inside information you can give us?
The vast majority of Americans are not engaged in this yet. Some have forgotten what it was like under Trump. Americans do have a short memory. And when this we finally kick off on this campaign and people get involved in late summer and early fall, I think you'll see difference in the poll numbers. But right now, the poll numbers, again, it's a snapshot of time with a few people who may be involved.
You're counting on the buffoonery and the mediocrity of the American public.
Counting on the buffoonery?
Yeah, if you're representing the Democratic Party, that's your best card right there, your best trump card, no pun intended. The mediocrity of the American public that doesn't care, doesn't actually pay attention to anything, are just going to keep voting with their... You just feed them the right
That's
claims.
Not what I said.
And then they're just going to be like, yeah, that makes sense. We're going to vote yet another Eric Adams into office or another
not what I said.
Brandon Johnson into office in Chicago.
Is that what you do? Attempt to put words in my mouth?
Well, no, I'm trying to understand why would the people that are not even paying attention suddenly, why are you thinking and banking that those people are going to just all of a sudden want to vote Biden?
Well, again, when particularly what we're looking at is the few states where it's going to make a difference in who's going to get the number of required electoral votes.
Okay, so Georgia,
Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan. Who am I missing?
Now, when you say electoral votes, you're talking about the good old Senate votes, right?
No, the Electoral College. This is the only non-democratic vote. Your senators are by popular vote.
Yeah.
Your representatives are by popular vote. Your local votes are what? By popular vote. The only vote that's not by popular vote is the presidency. Why? Because at the time, the framers
figured that the public may not be bright enough to actually make
bingo.
The right decision.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
So
hit it right on the head.
In theory, the swamp would just vote obviously against Trump.
Again, you say the swamp. The swamp, as you deem it, is the government. How do you say that the regular people are the swamp?
I didn't say the regular people are the swamp.
Well, you said the swamp.
The swamp would vote against Trump.
The swamp is not the... You said the swamp is the government.
The Okay, wait a minute. Who make up the electoral votes again? Maybe I'm getting a brain fart here.
Okay.
Who are the physical people, the entities that make up the electoral college or the electoral vote? Who's qualified?
States receive a certain number of
Voters.
electoral points, for lack of a better term.
Right.
Electoral
And
college.
who are the
so
physical?
if you win the state, win the state in the popular vote.
Yep.
Then you get those electoral college votes.
Who are the people that create those and issue those electoral votes? What is their position in office? Are those just people, or is that just the average person, or is that just not senators or something?
No, the election commission runs the voting for the state. Example, Georgia, where Biden won by 11,779 votes.
The election commission, okay.
Okay, so who ran the voting system in Georgia? Republicans, right? Same thing in Arizona. When you had
Republicans, when you say Republicans, you mean like average people that are Republicans, or like senators or Congress people?
People who are appointed or elected to the voting commission.
Okay.
Right. In red states are generally Republicans.
Okay, so average people that are voted into this particular position in office to be part of the electoral process. Not senators, not Congress people.
Right, correct.
Okay, just want to clear that up.
And then what happens is that once it's calculated, it's the governor of the state that certifies.
So you're on a mass
the election.
Can I
for their state that it was run right, and these are the numbers, and so they certified. So what you had in Arizona, it was in 2020, Rusty, I want to say Bowers was his name, but he was a Republican.
Rhino Republican?
No, he was a Republican. And in Georgia, it was the governor of Georgia, who's a Republican, certified the election for the Republicans. So that's who's certifying the election. And then once the count comes up, it goes to the House, and the vice president basically certifies the count. All he does is take the count that's been certified by the governors in each state and just count it. Okay. That's it. But the plan for Trump and his allies was for Vice President Pence not to do what he was required under the Constitution to do.
Okay. Now, this time around, you have inside information, it sounds to me, that the electoral voters out there, I don't know if you're in a mass email or how that works, but everybody's like, don't worry about it. We got a secret weapon. All our electoral, they can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, this is how we're going to get them. We're going to get the presidency through the electoral process. That's kind of what I'm getting at. This little scoop. Inside scoop.
No, it's not.
You don't have to leak out any names.
The American people, the American voters.
The American voters.
My belief are there's going to be more who are going to vote for Biden in the
electoral process.
Well, I'm thinking about the disputed states. Is a handful of them, 7, that makes the difference, because all the rest, Texas is going to stay red.
Right. But you have evidence of it, because you love evidence. You love facts. You clearly you're resting on.
I said I believe.
Okay, but you believe, but it's not based on evidence.
I just explained why I believe that is that.
But why would you rest on that belief if you have no evidence that Trump is more popular?
He is not more popular
than Biden, because he clearly seems to be more popular than Biden.
He is not more popular. He lost.
Didn't Biden lose in his own
No. Let's talk about popularity. He lost the popular vote to Hillary Clinton.
That was decades ago.
Hang on a second. It wasn't decades. It was 2016. By 3 million votes.
Okay.
He lost the popular vote to Joe Biden by 7.
Right. How much worse now,
votes.
though? anybody that's an adversary of Trump looks like they're not going to win. I mean, just look at the actual like the Republican Party. He didn't even have to show up to this thing, and even like Nikki Haley in her own state,
you're right.
She didn't even win in her own state.
It wasn't even, actually. It wasn't.
And
close.
you're telling me that he's not popular?
No. Again, that's a Republican primary.
Okay, but even on the Democratic side, like I heard in Michigan, like the speaking of Muslims, the Muslim community declared a no. I don't think it was a no contest or no contest. They just simply didn't like put Biden as a pick to actually be their next presidential hope. So you're telling me though, despite all this evidence, okay, where like Biden never does any big rallies himself. Most people, like you go to a UFC event, they're chanting "F Joe Biden." You talk to virtually anybody on the street now who isn't being pushed around in one of those like carts with like servants like holding you in poles. They're just walking around like the streets of Rome, right? Like upper class. Most people are like, dude, I just know that I had more money when Trump was president. And you're telling me, though, that despite all these concerns, we don't have to worry Biden will still be a president anyway.
I did not say that. That's
you
not
just,
what I said.
But you just happen to believe this, though.
I believe, I have more belief that Biden will become president, and yeah, that's it.
That's it. So some grasp of faith, kind of like
not a grasp of faith. I explained it. Would you like me to explain it again?
Yeah, based on somebody who knows about
voters
logic,
are not engaged
no-
currently. They do not know what's going on in the world. They have children to feed, work to do,
Yeah,
things
and
like that.
they're barely able to pay their
They're not
bills.
into politics
And I've
as
been
much
reading-
as I am.
I've been reading up on the common man and woman in like the lower middle class, and most of them are like, dude, I am broke. I wasn't like this prior to the Biden years. Anything's better than Biden.
Mm-hmm. All these people seem to have forgotten COVID, forgotten what you used to
Doesn't
call
matter.
the lockdown.
It doesn't matter if
They
they've
forgot
forgotten
how
it. That's the
badly
facts.
he handled that. The entire chaos. Every week it was something new with Trump.
You sound like Kareem Jean-Pierre.
The
but I'm missing
Muslim ban that he put out until
even the
courts
Muslims
took that
forgot
out.
about that up in Michigan. Apparently, they forgot about that because they clearly didn't look at Biden as their candidate, their top pick. So
What they did this is a primary. They sent a message to the White House of their displeasure on how Biden was handling Israel,
okay.
reference Gaza.
So
So it was 100. It was 100,000 non-votes just to send a message. But I believe the majority of those people will come back and vote for Biden in November.
Faith. What we're seeing here is hope that is not
And
seen.
I want you to remember this on November 7th.
November 7th, we're remembering. We're going into the future. We're going into the fifth dimension.
I want you to remember that because you have some type of confidence that Trump's going to win.
No, actually, I don't. I think
no, you did last week. When you changed it?
I think the Democratic Party is pretty sketchy. They do a lot of like cheat codes. Yeah, like try to get millions of people into the country legally, and somehow at the last minute try to hand them a voting slip where they can legally vote.
Oh
okay,
my God!
no, that's not going to happen.
It didn't happen in 2020.
It could happen now because there's 3 million more migrants in the
God.
country.
Stop.
Why don't you want to explain that to the public?
Stop.
What do you mean stop? The people want to know and answer that.
Citizens
Now,
of the United States can vote. No one else can.
Okay, so they're not going to be able to vote. Okay, you heard it here from Tyson. So you would be abhorred. You would actually call it election fraud if for some reason
It's not gonna happen.
at the last minute
I don't care what
migrants,
you say, please.
legal migrants are allowed to vote. You would be up in arms like everybody else and be like, that's not cool. That's
It's
not fair.
going to happen.
Okay, all right. According to you.
According to me.
Yeah, all right.
Again,
Listen, but somehow that card's not going to be used. But the majority of hidden people out there are going to suddenly just vote Biden. They'll be like, we don't care that he's physically not apparently fit to run for office a second term, or that good old Kamala Harris is his VP pick, as far as we can tell.
You obviously didn't
All right.
watch the State of the Union.
I did. I saw somebody heckle Biden. I saw like the weird sort of reptilian side of him come out a little bit upon that, not handling it with not as much dignity as Obama, I might add. He looked like he was on ups. I mean, he did a good job.
Why is it that, for 3 years now, yourself, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax have been pushing this thing that Biden is in his basement, he can't even get out of his chair and whatnot.
Dude, I would love to, in a cryptic way.
He shows you who he is.
In a cryptic way.
The first thing that and I heard it all over Fox News also, that, well, he must have been on something.
Because I know how PEDs work.
That's a bunch of...
All right? I know how they work, man. I know them stimulants.
You guys never stop.
You just got to inject somebody with the right stuff at the right time.
What happens is, when you're disproven, what happens? You move the goalpost.
I'll tell you what.
It's a QAnon special.
Okay.
Let's see. Robert Kennedy is going to show up in Texas on October 1st of 2021. Be there. People line the streets. He didn't show up, and then they moved the goalpost. Well, not this year. It's next year.
I like this.
You constantly move the goalpost.
I like this.
Your assertions have been disproven.
You know what I'm most fascinated by this whole thing?
What?
It's not so much whether Biden ultimately wins or Trump wins. It's more the psyche behind all this, the cognitive dissonance that exists among individuals. I'm not trying to single you out, my bro. I'm saying, I know a lot of people that you could present them fact after fact after fact, or concern after, and they're still gonna just hold on to that. In fact, I'm so almost marveling the steadfastness of you holding on to that belief. I want to add, I wish I could add, Biden not only was coherent during the entire presidential speech, and he's actually fit as a fiddle like that, not no against his age or anything, it's what it is. He's like Emperor Palpatine good. If you really mess with him, you should see him with a saber. You know what I mean? Imagine if we had a president like that. That would be badass, okay? But I don't think Biden is like that. I mean, I want to have to bring it back to reality. I think he's probably this job's too much for me. I don't blame him. I'm too old for this crap. I don't want to run a second term. I'm sick of being a puppet for the establishment. But he doesn't know how to say no. I've had a few uncles like that. I think that's his biggest existential problem right there. He doesn't know how to say no. But that's just my belief. You got to respect my belief too. Well, I think we're good for today. We can keep going on this topic, but I think you got a plethora of factoids. And
did we run out of time?
No, we didn't run out of time. We're still here. Fit as a fiddle, live and in living color. But we definitely went over the time, so I hope you enjoy these extra 8-minute bonus of Table for Truth this evening, and we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Hanukkah, Arbor Day, President's Day, Ides of March, Spring Solstice, Ramadan. Yeah, that's fine. Kwanzaa, and what's that weird, obscure holiday that nobody ever celebrates? That is, I was going to say, no, that can't be right.
You better end it here.
I better end it here. Okay, fine. See you guys later, and have a good week.
Hi, folks. Hit a like and don't forget to subscribe. And share the episodes if you like them.